Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. And today I'm going to be reviewing one of the few new releases this week, Doctor Strange. We're going to talk about the writing and the artwork, and we're going to finally end up with a little bit where it turns out Jed McKay is writing comic books for me, and that's nice, and I'm going to talk about that. We're going to start with the art, though. Artwork for this one is by, sorry, I'm going to check my names here, Pascal Ferry. And I like him. I like his stuff. My first thought when I was flicking through it, very briefly the other day when I was unpacking my deliveries, was it had a bit of a Jay Lee vibe to it, but what he's done is strip away a lot of the extraneous stylistic choices and gone for slightly more of a realistic look to it. This is really quite effective for me, because I like Jay Lee's art style, but I think it suits itself quite nicely on covers. Actually telling a real story where people are supposed to exist in that world and look the way they look, it's going to pull me out of it unless it's the most extreme kind of weirdness to it. Everything's a little bit too oddly angular and sharp. In this, there is still an element of that, but the world feels real. These people look like they are actually existing in it, and even the backdrops seem natural. The characterization, there's like an edge to it, which means these characters stand out, almost in that lead character in anime kind of show thing, where you definitely know who the main characters are. But it's not to the point that you feel like these are caricatures of these characters. They still look like they would in the world, and I like that. It's kind of down to earth for a big over-top magic story. Speaking of magic, if you're going to do magic in a comic book, that's going to be the impressive when you do it, the artwork style. And yes, he does it. There's a fantastic bit of teleportation where the artwork cuts over between two panels, and the actual magic seems to glow from the page and looks beautiful as it's happening. Genuinely cool artwork, no complaints whatsoever. Writing-wise, before we get to the writing, we're also going to talk about the colouring. Matt Hollins, I think, is doing the colouring for this one, and he does a really, really good job of actually not being limited by colour palettes. He absolutely totally extends his range, goes for everything he wants to. After, I think, Love Everlasting was the last thing I read that he did. I think this is a far more richer look at it. This time's when, yes, we're in the purple dimension, so it's a little bit more purple. But other times, he really plays with light and shadow. He doesn't go to too much darkness. The colours do jump off the page. They're really rich and really effective. Now onto the writing. Yeah, Jed McKay, brilliant. He's dealing with an awful lot of stuff here. Basically, Doctor Strange died recently. There was the Strange thing that ran with Claire, and also the Doctor Strange miniseries, which I absolutely love, great artwork. And I was basically not too sure how this would happen. I've not really been following the Strange story too much, so I wasn't sure how he's going to come back, but apparently he's back. And then he does a thing which I honestly thought I'd not enjoy. I thought I'd get a little bit fed up of this. It's a week in the life of Doctor Strange. Dr. Stephen Strange going and doing his thing. And I thought this is just going to be a little bit of a way to drop in some cameos, highlight some odd little facet character, but it turns out to be a really nice, invigorating little look at see what it would be like to be this person. And also, there's some genuinely good little bits of character building through dialogue, and not just between characters, but also a box out text when he's narrating what's going on. And weirdly, all this comes down to the fact that I, in my head, have this idea of Dr. Stephen Strange as being a very arrogant person. Some of this is down to the representation in movies, but I think there's also a little bit of that it comes across in the comic books I have read. And in this, we have a slightly different take on it. Yes, there's a superiority to it, but there's also limitations. An understanding that being the best you are at what you do isn't necessarily a good thing all the time. It comes with expectations, and also it comes with the idea that you might actually lose control and do terrible things with these powers. You have to be the best version of yourself you can be when you are that powerful. And sometimes that means not using the power, even though people are going to expect you to. And he certainly has that superior kind of air to him, even when it comes to his morals. But it weirdly adds to his charm. I didn't think it would, but it really does. Now, I'm talking about Jed McKay literally writing for me. And this comes down to two things. First one happens in the backstory with this, which is really quite nice. It's still him writing a couple of different artists. I've forgotten their names, I do apologise. And it takes place starting in a Zeppelin over Birmingham in England. And one of the first things I remember seeing was a reference to Orgo and Energy, and I'm like, okay, Alan Moore, right, so we're going to be talking sex here, brilliant. It turns out, yeah, there's kind of a big psychedelic energy thing happening, and this guy, Freaky Dr. Z, I think his name was, is going to drop some hallucinogenic magic all over Birmingham and trip people out, so they actually get to experience a different state of being and can hopefully lift themselves out of drudgery. Now I'm thinking, yeah, okay, cool thing to do, but then Agents of Wand turn up to try and stop it, and I'm like, okay, so I see what he's done here. This is the idea that, yeah, maybe this is something that's kind of cool to do, or something that most people think might be a good thing, but he's going to do it in an extreme way, so we have a reason to think he's bad and we'll send the cops in. But the cops turn up, these two Agents of Wand, they do stop him, but it's like, yeah, we're not going to beat you up and arrest you. You're actually doing something here which I agree with. with. This is speaking from the character in the comic book. Yes, we should be lifting people up. I'm not here to be an agent of one to maintain the status quo. We should be changing. We should be trying to make the world better. But what you're doing is not giving people a consent to do that. You are doing this when people might be driving down an A road or at work on heavy machinery. That's dangerous. Don't do that. But come and join us and let's actually try and destroy the status quo and make things better. Yes, brilliant. Exactly the kind of stuff I like. Keep that up. Early on in the main comic book, though, back in England, in Cornwall, I had to check, by the way, it turns out Jed Mackay's Canadian, but he puts a couple of English references in, so I'm not complaining. And it's talking about British government extraditing some people who've come from a different dimension to another dimension, to the purple dimension of all places, where they were literally going to be enslaved. And that feels like it's just a nice option for Doctor Strange to go and do his thing and rescue some people magically, but also it's clearly their abandoned deportation scheme. Clearly what he's doing there, he's literally picking things from the real world, putting an over-the-top magical slint on it, and making sure that people might think about it a little bit more, might think that the government's doing this kind of thing are not to be trusted, they are not on the side of people. Literally two things in a comic book, which I was really, really happy to have. So I already like it, it's good, it's well written, it looks very pretty, and also, I kind of have to really criticise Jed Mackay when he's writing comic books for a guy who runs a small comic book store in the north of England, so keep it up. And that's it for me today. I'll be back later on with more reviews. I think I've got at least one more to do this week. Until I see you all again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!